In this video, I'm going to be installing the GB Racing bolt-on secondary engine covers on my Yamaha R3. Before I start the installation process, I just want to talk a little bit more about this product. So I purchased this as a kit. You can see it comes with 3 different items. So you have your clutch cover, your water pump cover, and your alternator or generator cover. So the nice thing about GB Racing is that each individual components comes in its own package, and in the package you will have the cover itself. You will also find the instructions. So the nice thing about the instructions that they are in English, and they have some really good pictures of the installation process as well. So super well done, super helpful. And finally, in the bag you will also find the mounting hardware to install this specific cover or engine cover on your bike. You can expect to pay about $250 USD for this kit. If you live outside of the US, GB Racing has quite a wide network of distributors and resellers, so they are quite easy to find. But please be aware that a few years ago there was quite a few people that purchased some fake items on eBay. So make sure that when you buy something that you validate with the GB Racing website that your bike shop or the reseller is an authorized reseller of these products, to make sure that you have the authentic quality and product from GB Racing. So the nice thing about these covers is that they are bolt-on products. It means that you don't have to remove your OEM case. You only need to undo a few bolts and slide this on and use the bolts that were supplied by GB Racing to reattach that cover on top of your OEM cover, and you will have this cover in place protecting your OEM case. The other nice thing about these covers that you can see here, these little metal spacers, so that will prevent the cracking of these cases if you ever over tighten the bolt when you're trying to assemble this back in place. So the cover themselves are made of long glass fiber nylon, which makes them flexible but also very resistant. So the reason why I'm saying flexible, I mean, I can feel a bit of flex in it when I'm really applying a lot of torque on it. And this is really important because if you have a really severe impact, or if you hit the deck, the cover will absorb a lot of this impact, but it won't shatter. And the long fiber nylon will make it extremely scratch resistant, if you will, so that it can take a lot of abuse before it goes through the full thickness of that case. And the case vary in thickness between a few millimeters to about 12 millimeters. So at the end of the day, guys, the nice thing about these covers is that if you hit the deck, if you have a low side, if you just drop your bike in the paddock, these covers will most likely allow you to keep on riding and save some very expensive damages to your OEM case. So that's the main reason why I choose to install these covers on my bikes. It just allows me to have the peace of mind that if I have an incident of some sort, my OEM case will be protected and I should, in theory, be able to keep riding. So without any further ado, let's start the installation process. Alright folks, so this is the alternator cover here. This will simply go on top here, and you can see where you should have the bolts removed to install the new bolts that are supplied with the GB Racing cover here. So in this case, this bolt here on the right hand side is going to be the 40 mil, and the other 3 bolts will be the 35 millimeters. So fairly easy. You simply need to figure out which one you need to remove, and then you will need to use your 8mm socket and wrench to remove these bolts. and I'm going to remove them here. I've already removed two just to speed up the process here. So I'm going to remove this one. And the nice thing about these cases as well is that you only need to remove a few bolts and your cover will stay in place, as I mentioned earlier. So this is really advantageous because you don't have any fluid leaking or you don't have any risk of damaging your gaskets. You can simply reassemble the secondary case without any Loctite. So the longer bolt, the 40 mil, will go at position 1 here. And the bottom will be the 35 mil and the 35 mil in the third hole as well. And the last and final one will also be another 35 millimeter. And when you secure this in place, you can simply use a crisscross pattern to make sure that you apply even pressure on your secondary case. So everything's in place. I'm going to secure everything to the proper spec in the crisscross pattern again. And the tightening spec for this are 10 Newton meter. And we're gonna do one last round here so everything is good. And I'm gonna double check all the bolts at the same time to make sure everything is okay and nothing is loose. So yeah, everything is good. And now we have the secondary alternator cover installed. So we're gonna do the same thing on the other side for the water pump and the clutch cover as well. Before I complete the installation process, there's one feature I didn't talk about during the intro, and GB Racing actually holds a patent for this feature, and it's called the reverse wear indicator. So the reverse wear indicator is basically a series of holes in the back of your secondary cover that are 2 or 3 millimeters away from the surface of your case, so that if you ever have a crash, a low side for example, and during the low side it scratches the front of your cover, if you see that hole or that reverse wear indicator, it means that this cover should be replaced. Obviously GB Racing is recommending that you replace these after an incident, but we all know that if you spend a few days at the racetrack, you might not have these in your spare kit. So if you don't see the reverse wear indicator, you're probably good to go again a second time. And if you have a secondary crash, the cover should be sound or solid enough to protect your OEM case. So you do whatever you want with this information. I just wanted to pass this along and make sure that you were aware, because I think it's a pretty neat feature. It allows you to determine how much life is left in your secondary cover without removing it and reinstalling it again. So now that you know, we can resume the installation process. Okay, so now we're gonna install the water pump cover, and the water pump cover is similar concept as before. It's just gonna slide on top of the OEM cover, and you will need to remove these 3 bolts here, so 1, 2, and 3. And this one here is your drain point for your coolant. So first of all, you have to make sure that your bike is not hot. And once your bike had a chance to cool down, you can remove these 2 bolts. And this one will be the last one that you should remove. And when you do this, there's a crush washer here. And you will get 2 crush washers. And you want to insert one on your bolt itself. And then after that, insert the bolt in your metal hole, and after that you will have another crush washer on the other side here, and that's just going to slide over, and that will prevent the fluid from coming out. So normally I would do this with a pan here to catch the coolant, but I don't think that a lot of coolant will drip from the pump. So I'm going to cross my fingers and I'm going to hope that nothing is going to leak here. So we're going to unscrew the top 2 bolts here. And I'm going to remove this one Oh, there's also already a bit of liquid coming out here, so I guess I was wrong. So there will be some liquid coming out. So we're going to try to do this quickly, and I'll do this one as well. And yes, it's coming out. Well, here goes my theory of trying to do this without a mess here. So I'm going to screw this back in place, clean this up, use a pan, and we'll start the process over again. So you can see now I have a pan. I'll just put the pan underneath. And the reason why it was leaking so much is because I just added some new coolant because I was doing some testing on something else. And there's not enough coolant in my system, so there's probably air pocket somewhere that's pushing the liquid down. Normally, if you don't have any air pockets, when you remove these bolts, you should have very little liquid coming out. But in my case, I wasn't that fortunate, and I'll have to bleed my system or flush my system completely after that regardless, because I'm going to install a new auxiliary radiator, so I don't really care if I lose some fluid. So I'm going to start that process again here. I'm going to make sure that everything is ready. I got some paper towel here to help in the process, make sure it's not too messy, and I can wipe everything before reinstalling the new cover. So I'm going to do this a bit backwards now. I'm going to remove my drain plug first, and it's probably going to leak quite a bit. I'll let it drain, and after that I'll remove the other two bolts once the liquid stops coming out. So here's the first one here. It's actually not too bad. I thought it was going to be worse than that. So this is the first one, and let's see if I try the second one again. And we'll do the third one, and here we go. So now the liquid's coming out quite a bit. All right, so I'm just going to wipe this up now, and I will take my cover, make sure the crush washers are in place, and I'm going to screw this in very quickly here. Screw your two bolts in place. Finish securing everything in place, and again the torque specs for this will be the same as the other side, which is 10 Newton meter. And as I mentioned, I'm not too worried that the liquid or the fluid is out, because I'm gonna reinstall some new Samco hoses and an extra radiator as well. All right, so again, don't go overboard with tightening of these bolts. You don't want to damage anything, so if you're not sure, just use a torque wrench and secure everything at the proper torque specs. So now we will install the clutch cover. The nice thing about the clutch cover is that you have this little hole here that's already pre-drilled so that you can safety wire your oil cap. And when you slide this on here, you will notice that you need to detach or disassemble your clutch cable bracket. So you'll remove that bracket, so those two bolts will need to come off. And after that, you will have two more bolts, one at the bottom right and one bottom left. And then we will be able to slide this on and attach it. It comes with 4 35mm bolts, and they're all the same length, same size. So it's the same thing. You will need an 8mm X socket in order to remove the OEM bolt and replace them with the GB Racing one. One thing that I normally like to do is that you have your indicator here for your rod or your shift arm, and this little arrow here is your indicator that will be lining up with the mark on your rod here. So what I like to do normally is just I line up everything and make sure that everything is in place, and I'll just take a file here and just make a little mark in line with that arrow so that if I ever have to make sure that the alignment is okay, I can use this mark as a reference point. So just a little scuff in that fiberglass to help me with the alignment of that shift rod. So now that this is done, I'm going to remove these bolts. So I'm going to start with these two here. Alright, so I'm going to start with the bracket here, make sure that everything's lined up properly. So this is bolt number 1, bolt number 2 here. Start threading it just a little bit here so that my bracket doesn't move. Same thing with the other one here. And then I'll add the other two, and after that we'll start securing everything in a crisscross pattern. So I'll just go finger tight for now, and then we will torque everything at 10 Newton meter. And you can see this is a very easy thing to assemble. I mean, fortunately for me, I didn't have my fairings on, so you will need to remove the fairings on both sides, at least your left and your right fairings, in order to do this. If you have a raised fairing, then obviously it's a bit different and probably a bit more simple, but the fairings will need to be removed in order to proceed with this assembly. And now that everything is done here, I'm going to double check all the bolts, make sure everything is properly torqued. Alright folks, that was the installation process for the GB Racing engine covers for the Yamaha R3. Don't forget to refill the coolant in your system if you lost some coolant. As I mentioned earlier, in my case, I don't really care that I lost some coolant because I'm still building the bike right now. I'm going to replace the radiator hose with some Samco hoses. I'm going to add an auxiliary fibure radiator, so I don't really care that I lost the fluid. I'll retop everything shortly once I'm finished the installation process. Now you can reassemble your fairings and go riding. In certain cases, you might have to do a bit of extra cutting in your fairings because the thickness of the engine covers might have an impact on your fairings. They might not fit properly, so you'll have to take this into consideration as well. In my case, I have some raised fairings and I know for a fact that it will fit properly, so I'm not too worried about this. But you have to keep these things in mind, that if you do this type of work, you might have to tweak a few things to make sure that everything works to your liking. So that's it for now. Again, my name is Marco Landry, and I hope that this video was helpful. If it was, do me a favor, please smash that like button, subscribe to my channel, and if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please post them below or reach out on social media. And until next time, stay safe, ride safe, and I will see you soon. Cheers.